So welcome to our webinar on eliminating NARs at your site. We have a very special guest from Olin Corporation, Jennifer Barnett. Olin is a global manufacturer and distributor of chemical products, including chlorine. And we worked with Olin on a solution for chlorine railcar inspections and loading operations. So today we're going to discuss the challenges associated with learning and performing inspections of pressurized railcars, and how you can ensure your operators learn more effectively in a standardized way to reduce the risk of incidents in light of issues such as employee turnover and loss of experience. So I'll introduce the panel. If we can move to the next slide, perfect. So we have, we're truly excited to have Jennifer Barnett, Learning and Development Specialist with Olin. Jennifer has been in the industry for over 22 years, and she's had a wealth of experience in manufacturing in various roles, including technical specialist, production supervisor, emergency response, in shipping loading, as an instructor, auditor, and in various other roles. So very excited to have you here, Jennifer, and looking forward to the discussion. Fran Montemuro, Director of Operations. Fran has had over 30 years of manufacturing experience in plant manager and operation leader roles in both batch and continuous process plants. And then myself, Christian McDermott, I am the North American coordinator here with Voovio. So I'd like to kick it off with Fran, who's going to start the discussion. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Christian. So as Christian mentioned, we're going to talk about the rail car loading operation and just kind of set the stage. Rail car and tank truck loading in the industry over the last 20 years, if I look at the Department of Transportation website, there's an average of over 11,500 incidents annually. And getting into the detail of this challenge within the industry, why are these incidents occurring? The overwhelming causes associated with these incidents are twofold: failure to follow the procedures or operational discipline, error in execution. And the other piece is equipment failure. And look at the impact to the industry and to the communities associated with these 11,500 incidents each year. It's a significant impact to the environment and the community. And we're going to learn today the impact from a regulatory standpoint and how that really impacts the companies that are loading these different products into rail cars. Regulatory fines from the FRA and from other regulatory agencies are significant, and we'll learn that they're on average it's about $8,900 per incident. Other impacts related to these incidents: injuries to personnel, to the communities, exposure to the communities, costly cleanups, remediation to the environment, in addition to the assets that are damaged, whether it's on the customer site or on the supplier site or even in transit. And then lastly, the product delays and impact to the supply chains of the customers and the end customers when it comes to getting their products. A little more detail associated with these operational discipline errors. On average, the rail car incidents cost $40,000 per incident. And you can see, again, data from the Department of Transportation, nearly half of these incidents are related to human error or execution errors in the loading or finishing up the loading and preparing that rail car for shipment. So with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Jennifer Barnett, who's going to talk to us about Olin and the benefits they've realized using Voovio.
Thank you, Fran. So talking about some of the key challenges at loading facilities, and I think it's probably common around every industry that tends to be our hiring point for new operators. that or it's contracted out services. So when we talk about some of the challenges, one of them is, the quality of training our new operators are getting, and what's the consistency, of that training. We tend to put operators with a senior operator, have them shadow them as part of that training program. So the training is only as good as that senior operator, the training they're providing. One of the things, too, is a challenge is how do we train our operators to mitigate incidents before they occur? And one of those things is showing them and training them on proper preload inspections and postload inspections and how to identify, equipment defects and things such as that. Another challenge our operators have in a shipping and loading environment is not only are they having to certify in that area process or that loading rack and the procedures and policies for the site, they also have to certify for DOT certifications, and also they have to learn the DOT regulations. So it's almost kind of two certifications that go together. So when we talk about the DOT regulations itself, the regulations, there are regulations out there that state that, to prevent releases of the product, you have to inspect your cars before you can ship them. The federal regulation 49 CFR 173.31 subpart D states that no person may offer for transportation tank car containing a hazardous material or a residue of a hazardous material unless that person determines that the tank car is in proper condition and safe for transportation. So that goes for loaded or empty cars. And what that regulation means is that any closures, any valves, defects, anything that could cause that car to leak that is outside of normal accidents such as derailments or things like that. In other words, it needs to be able to survive the normal transportation conditions such as vibration or temperature change or anything like that. That basically says these inspections should identify that. It should you should be able to prevent all this. And if you do have a leak in transportation, then DOT will assume that you did not do the proper inspection of that car. So what are these incidents commonly referred to? They're called NARs, and if you're in this industry, most of us know what an NAR is, and that's a non-accidental release. And it's the unintentional release of any hazardous material in transportation, again, that happens while in railroad possession. It's not caused by a derailment or collision or any other related rail accident. It can be from leaks, splashes, improperly secured or defective valves, fittings. It's also included is PRD releases to atmospheric gases or non-atmospheric gases. The average fine, now this isn't including cleanup and other cost and manpower of a cleanup. Just the fine itself, the average fine for NAR is $8,900. I'm going to pass this off to Christian.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So I'm going to share my screen here. Once it's open, could Nicole confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, Kristen, we can.
Perfect. So Jennifer and her team worked with us to create a solution for inspections and loading procedures. We're going to share the inspections piece because we're not permitted to show the loading rack area, but this will give you a great overview of the capabilities of the platform. And I just want to say that everything I'm about to show you here on the screen, it may appear a little bit jumpy or jerky because we're sharing this over the conference platform. But if you were utilizing this on your laptop, like I am right now, it would be very smooth. So imagine I'm a trainee a trainee learning how to inspect rail cars and perform loading procedures, typically I would have a few hours of classroom training, followed by some hands-on training at a rail yard, walking around a rail car with an SME or a trainer. But you'll see here, what I'm doing now is I'm able to walk around a real rail car. It's a real view of a rail car. I don't need to be in the rail yard, which are incredibly dangerous places. Plus, you need access to a rail car that has to be there and secured properly. But with Voovio, you're able to walk around and look at all the different inspection points, which you'll see in a minute, 24/7. So I can access this at any time, 24/7 as a trainee. And in fact, instructors can use this virtually for virtual training sessions, or you can even use it for in-person classroom training events as well. So you'll see here now I'm at the B end of the rail car. All the components of the rail car we're going to be looking at are clearly tagged and labeled. And you'll see that I can actually click on a component and get that close-up view. And Voovio also gives you that ability to interact with equipment. In this case, I'm interacting with the handbrake. But we also simulated the securing and hooking up of a chlorine rail car for Olin, and where trainees can interact with all the connections and all the tools they need to perform the inspection procedure and loading procedures as well. What I want to point out here is, as a trainee as well, I can search for any component around the rail car or the loading rack. But in this case, I'm going to look for the brake shoe on the A end left side third wheel of the rail car. So I select it, I click on it, and it will take me straight to where that is located. And you'll see here on the map where I am. I'm here on the left rail car. We have the loading rack on the right. And here is that brake shoe that I was searching for. So independent of an SME or a trainer, I, as a new trainee, can refer to this anytime, 24/7. The mapper, of course, I showed you. You can also drag and drop to any point in the replica. So great tool to familiarize yourself with the railcar. And I feel pretty confident now. I'm familiar with where everything is. I'm familiar with the railcar. So let's move to the procedure. So as a trainee, I can practice and learn any procedure on my own 24/7 with this simulator. Now, this simulator I'm about to show you is a guided module, which means it's kind of like a virtual trainer, so a virtual SME. So it's something I can utilize ahead of any hands-on training and post hands-on training. So let me explain what's on the screen. So we have the replica on the right of the screen. We have the map at the bottom, so I can always see where I'm located. We have the procedure here on the left. You'll see that this procedure actually is pretty text heavy, very long. There's a lot of different things going on. And in fact, it has over 300 individual action items that I will need to perform as the operator. Above that, we have an action checklist. So the reason why we have this checklist in addition to the procedure is to kind of clarify any generalizations or ambiguous statements in the procedure. An example could be, a procedure might say, close all the vent valves, and it may not specify how many there are. If there were, 3 of them, we would have 3 separate action items here. So it's incredibly important to drive that procedure clarity for the trainee or the operator here. So let's do the first few steps. So we're here at the roller bearings here on the A end left side. And the first step I'm doing here is to check the cap for damage, which it highlights where the cap is and what I'm looking for. And again, with the roller bearings lubricant fitting. So it walks me step by step through the procedure. And you'll see here that a knowledge snippet popped up which is showing me what a defected bearings adapter may look like. So these knowledge snippets are incredibly powerful because not only for knowledge capture and transfer, but it clearly shows what I'm looking for as the operator doing the inspection. Now, in some knowledge snippets as well, you could have technical specs, such as this brake shoe technical specs here for the thickness of it. In this case, it's text. But you could also put videos in here as well. Videos are an incredibly popular and powerful knowledge capture and transfer tool that customers use all the time. And in fact, as I'm walking through this procedure, I'd like to point out that you can assign operators these modules before, training, after training, and you'll see that we can actually even test operators on these procedures as well. I'll finish off here by showing you the last knowledge snippet, which utilizes the tool that you need to measure the thickness of the wheels. So again, we can add those types of snippets in. In fact, if you're in the loading rack or in the process area, we utilize real toolboxes where you can actually implement and attach hoses, bleeds, and plugs and things like that. So I think I'm pretty confident with this procedure. So as the trainee, I want to test my knowledge now. Or in fact, the trainer may want to test my knowledge on this before I do any hands-on field walkthroughs. So this is a simulator, which is a test. It's the same layout, but I'm totally freestyle here by the Railcar. So I could actually walk around and interact with anything on the Railcar. But I'm going to do the first step here, and the system will give me immediate feedback on whether I'm doing something correct or incorrect. So I think this is the A end left side third wheel roller bearings adapter. I confirm, and you'll see that I got it wrong, actually. So I get that immediate feedback. Because this is a simulator, the beautiful thing is that I can review my mistake and try again. So I'm going to click try again, and it will give me the opportunity to rectify my mistake. So I'm going to walk down here, and I believe it is actually down right here. This was the correct wheel, third wheel, and this is the correct roller bearing adapter that I'm looking for. So I confirm, and you'll see on the left, I get immediate feedback, action completed correctly after 2 attempts. So the beautiful thing about this test is that I can get that real-time feedback. All my progress is stored automatically in the cloud. And at the end of a test, I will get a report which looks something like this, with a detailed log of everything I've done. In the cloud, we also have operator profiles. So you can, as a trainer, you can assign and assess operators. And there are also some data analytics that come with it. So everything I've shown you so far is about building the competency before you go and perform the procedure, and also about measuring that and tracking it. But what about using something when you're performing the inspection for real? Or it could be a loading procedure. So this is the field execution tool. This is like a visual step-by-step guide, which ensures I don't miss any inspection points here. So remember, this is a 300+ procedure. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, I'm on the first step of 306 steps. So it could be easy to overlook something. This ensures I don't. So at the top, I have the step that I need to complete, the first step. And you can toggle between the detailed view and where you find that component on the Railcar. I click this green check mark to move through the simulation as well. So as I click through, it will take me to the next step, and it will clearly show me what I'm looking for. And in fact, you also have access to those knowledge snippets, which I'll show you just in this second here. So you can refer to what a defect may look like, or you can have those technical specs that you need when you're in the field. But there's a very little chance that I'm going to miss something and make an error. You can also make notes as well. I'm going to type in something. I click OK, press continue, and those notes will be saved alongside that step. And the output of this is a report with all of that data. So we have each step I've completed, the timestamp and by whom, and you'll see in the very last step here, we have my notes. All of this is, again, stored and collected in the cloud. It's automated, and there are some data analytics that come with it. So I'd like to finish off by showing you some enhanced views that we also did for Olin. I'm going to have Jennifer talk through two enhanced views, the first one being this valve. So Jennifer, talk through and I'll operate.
So one of the things that we wanted to use for enhanced views is a chlorine angle valve for our chlorine loading simulation. And what this was able to do is give that internal visual to the operator so they could understand how the valve worked by using the manipulation as you see Christian doing now. So this was able to enhance that view so they could see the internal parts of the valve, and which helps them incredibly in being able to identify leak points with this specific valve. This view, we use this as kind of a flow diagram to understand the loading flows or the offloading flows of a rail car, specifically a chlorine car. And then it helped them view and kind of that realistic internal view of how that car is being loaded and why it's important to, vent your valves a certain way or closing your valves, what closing valves will do if you don't have those valves vented the proper way. So by being able to align those valves in that simulation kind of gave them a really, really good internal view of what's going on in that rail car.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. And so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back to Jennifer, who's going to talk on the next slide, I believe.
Yes. So one of the few impacts that Voovio had for Olin itself was given that photorealistic view for railcar inspections. It helped develop the operator's competency as far as giving them to do the proper inspections they needed to do. All the DOT requirements and regulations was included in the simulator. That was something, that was real important to Olin to be able to combine that. Gave the loaders the ability to be able to practice doing these inspections on their own time as they wanted to, not depending on whether or not they even had a rail car available to do an inspection on. Another key factor was it kept them able to provided them a way to be able to do these inspections within the safety of the control room or, wherever they wanted to do it, that didn't have them doing it in the rail yard itself, active rail yard. Another thing was having that action checklist on say a tablet that they could have out in the field for them or with them to reference. I actually do a onboarding railcar training class for all of our new hires in the corporation. And, once I'm doing the training, the classroom portion, we go out, we do the hands-on, walk around cars and inspect and do all those things. But then I get on a plane and I leave. And what this is able to do is give them that continuance of the classroom training. They're able to take it with them, and it's almost like, I'm still there with them, training them. They have everything I've taught them in the classroom right there in their hands. So it takes operator dependent training and then that training is only as good as the trainer. It's consistent, it's standardized across the entire organization, and it's not relying on just what the trainer's knowledge is or how that trainer is going to train that person.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. That was awesome. So let's talk about what we saw. We saw Christian went over the simulator, the NAR, the checklist. Jennifer talked to us about the benefits and the enhanced views. So with Voovio's program and Olin's implementation, they were able to implement a solution that was available to the operators 24/7. And as Jennifer just talked about, she's there for a short period of time. And when she leaves, those operators can practice to build their competency. And once they feel confident and competent, they can go in and take a test to demonstrate their competency in the cloud-based solution that's part of the knowledge platform. And then lastly, to ensure accurate execution, they have this available to them on a tablet or any device. It's the field execution tool. So it gives them the capability to validate their execution. The results, it's accurate field execution. There's no mistake that they're on the right component, right valve, right check before they execute it. And what we've seen in the industry, including Olin's project and many other projects, is at least a 50% improvement in the operator's speed to competency, their ability to qualify on a procedure, as well as the benefits of the Voovio cloud and our knowledge platform, email notifications to the operator, letting them know that they have an assignment, a procedure to review and to test on. And then once that's completed, the administrator, the person overseeing the training program, has the ability to review that competency data using our knowledge platform analytics. So how long does it take to implement a Voovio project and have access to our platform? It takes about 10 weeks. And the way we initialize a project is we need the customer's procedures. Once we receive the procedures, we will review its content and then deliver a scope of work to our customers for review. And within that scope of work is the time, the cost, et cetera, on this project. Very resource light. We need a few days from the customer's SME to walk our engineers through the procedures. And once we complete that walkthrough, we leave the site. And again, 10 weeks, 10, 12 weeks, we deliver the total content to the customer. Once we deliver that content to the customer, we will provide training to the operators, to the end users, so they are comfortable using Voovio and being able to navigate around Voovio's guided learn test modules, and give the administrator the capability to use the Voovio cloud and assign content. And then throughout the project, our operations team will provide support to the customer on the adoption of the Voovio solution. One last thing I'd like to cover before we open it up for questions: procedure clarity. Christian mentioned clarity as he was talking about our solution. And what we've been able to determine by working through our projects is procedure clarity to the operators really is defined by the ability to take the existing procedures and create clear, concise actions in a checklist form that detail every action an operator needs to take to execute that procedure accurately and effectively. In addition to that checklist is the visualization, the photorealistic view of their plant. So we marry that photorealistic view of the plant to the action checklist, and with that, they can then practice and learn by doing that procedure. And by practicing 24/7 independent of the SME, affords that operator the ability to gain confidence in that procedure and then demonstrate competency. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions. Nicole.
Great. Thanks, Fran. First question we have is, how many internal resources do we need to get a project? To do a project, sorry.
Kristen, I can take that one. Really, again, it's very resource light. We need the SME. Once we show up on site, our engineers are very well versed in the industry, and we'll be on site for a couple days. We'll need the SME to walk our engineers through the plant, demonstrate the procedures. Our engineers, again, are educated in the industry and will know what questions to ask to prove out those procedures. And then we go away and come back in 10, 12 weeks and deliver the final product. So very resource light.
Great. Next question we have is, do we need Wi-Fi infrastructure in the plant for Voovio to work?
I can take that question. So do we need Wi-Fi infrastructure? We do not. For the field execution tool that I showed you, where we had the step-by-step visual walkthrough. So it wasn't the simulation, it was the kind of step-by-step visual walkthrough. It's actually all cached in the web browser. So you can go directly to the field, and if you don't have Wi-Fi or if your service cuts out, that's not an issue. At the end, once you've completed all the actions, all of that can be easily downloaded onto your system.
Great. Thanks, Christian. Next question we have is, can we update the simulators on our own, or do we need you to make the changes?
Yep, I can answer that one again, Fran. So there's an update tool actually where customers can make the majority of updating on their own. Things like those knowledge snippets we talked about, adding or removing a step, even incorporating a new procedure. And we've done procedures, not only for loading and inspections, but also in the process areas, startups, shutdowns, equipment swaps, lockouts, all sorts of different procedures. So we can do all the updates for you, or customers can take care of most of them. So it just depends.
Great. Next question is, what are the benefits for operators?
I can take this one. I think the biggest benefit is the ability to train at their own pace without feeling like they're pressured or rushed by the trainer or another operator, having it readily available, and being able to do it in the control room in a safe environment where the operator doesn't feel uncomfortable, maybe in a process area out there on their own.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Next question is, the flip side of that, what are the benefits for the company?
I'll take that one again also. For the company, the benefits is again, having them to be able to train in a safe environment. And, for instance, for our specific simulations is not, in an active rail yard. Being able to train without having to worry about the surrounding area and the hazards that could be in the area. Also, again, the availability of resources and their time, not having to occupy that, or if a resource is not available, such as an operator or trainer, or even the area supervisor, it gives them that opportunity to still continue to train without taking up the resources time. Being able to add this to already existing programs, that was a big thing for us. Is we're not trying to replace a program, but adding adding tools to that program for the loaders or the operators to be able to use, and then also using it not just for new hire operators, but also implementing this through our LMS system and being able to push this out as a refresher training for senior operators or operator recertifications.
And if I could add, from a company standpoint, as we talked about, Jennifer shared the impact of these NARs on average. It's $8,900 per NAR. So just the sheer savings related to regulatory fines, and as the Olin team and many of our other customers build the competency of their operators, they avoid unplanned downtime. They improve their first pass, first quality yields because they're not delayed in their startups. Significant savings on onboarding and speed to competency of the operators. So multiple benefits from a company standpoint to have a system-based training that's not dependent and reliant on SMEs, then it's standardized for the operators.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer and Fran. Next question we have is, during simulation training, do we have any assessment to verify the trainee knowledge and understanding?
Fran, you want to take a stab at that?
So during the training, so if they're using our simulators, the guided module will ensure that they follow the established procedure. So in that sense, the trainee will execute that procedure correctly. As they get into the test module will validate their competency. And if they score a 60% within our knowledge platform, the trainer or the SME will be able to see what questions they missed and where they need additional training and or follow-up to better understand that procedure. So yes, the platform, Voovio's platform, gives the trainer and the SME and the organization the ability to see where additional training is needed for that trainee. I think that's answering that question.
Great. Thanks, Fran. And a follow-up question to that one is, does your company only do railcar loading trainings? What are the other areas of expertise?
So yeah, I'll take that one again. We have projects in place for truck loading, tank truck loading. We're doing railcar loading, and we spend most of our time in the process and doing process area training, whether it's on reactor processes, furnaces, cracking units, distillation units. So we provide the training across the industry for different processes. This is just one example where we can build the competency of the railcar loading operators. But yes, we have that expertise across the industry.
Great. Thanks, Fran. Next question we have is, do we need to review the procedures before we send them to you for a quotation/project? Yeah,
I'll answer this. Absolutely not. On the contrary, that's what we do. As I mentioned, our engineers are quite competent in the industry. So the only thing we will need is our engineers like to review the procedures prior to arriving at the site. And then we need the SME just to walk us through, and we will validate sequence and ensure the execution of those procedures. So more often than not, we will identify missteps or errors in the procedure, but no, we provide that review of the procedure, and we provide our end product is an up-to-date procedure that we give to our customer. So no, do not review your procedures prior to a project.
Great. And Jennifer, the next question is for you, is what is the feedback from operators?
So the way I push this out to operators, we run a pilot program with these simulators. and I was very picky about how I pushed that out or whom I pushed it out to. So I selected a pool of senior operators who were very knowledgeable of our procedures, and then a brand new class of new hires that I had just went through class with. And in both cases, I also had tagged a survey for them to fill out. And in both cases, the feedback was overwhelmingly, really liking the visuals of being able to see that step in the procedure, kind of come to life and seeing it demonstrated. What that was, it just allowed them to be able to have everything in one place, and it allowed them to be able to know exactly what that step in the procedure meant, and being able to reference the correct tools or the correct connections and things like that, in which step you do things, because a lot of times that's very important. The other feedback that I was actually surprised from a little bit was from my senior operators, which was, really liking the simulation as a refresher for them. They were actually very pleased to have a refresher utilized through the simulation.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. We have time for one more question. So that question is, if I wanted to simulate every procedure in my plants, would you be able to do it? In particular, loading, unloading, SOPs, and also SOPs in the production units.
Yeah, I can take that one. So yeah, we can basically do any procedure in the process area. We do a lot of them. In fact, I think Fran alluded to startups, shutdowns, and so forth. We just need to agree on the calendar that fits best for your site, in light of turnarounds or SME availability. But that's basically it. But yeah, it's possible to do every procedure you want to do in the process area or in the loading rack area.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer, Fran, and Christian, for your very interesting and informative webinar and demo. For those in the audience, if we didn't get to your question live on air this morning, the team at Voovio will be able to reach out to you individually post-webinar. If you want to listen again, this webinar will be available on demand shortly. And finally, thank you to you wherever you are for taking the time to listen in on today's session. Remember to check out more of our upcoming and on-demand webinars at oilandgasiq.com or industrialtransformationnetwork.com. And again, thank you so much, Fran, Christian, and Jennifer, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.